Okay, so in this video I'm going to show you how to go about setting up a still life. And in this case I've just got a bunch of food objects, but it doesn't have to be food, but try and think of a theme. So whether that is food or whether it is maybe technology, so you might have things like a laptop and some sort of game console, phone, earphones or anything like that really. Just get a kind of theme together rather than having just like a bit of everything, unless that's trying to you're trying to convey a message of having totally opposite things next to each other, which is juxtaposition, then maybe that's an idea, but it's got to be very clear that that is your idea and whatever you're trying to get across. So I'm just going to use food because it's what is handy and it's something everyone's probably got in their cupboards and fridge and stuff, but really it can be anything you want. It could be like a personal objects theme, so things that belong to you personally, your favourite objects, maybe things that you take around with you every day like keys, and whatever it is, think about the fact that you are going to be drawing from it. So you have to think about objects that you're going to want to draw, like this for example. That I don't want to have to really be drawing all that writing, so when I position it I'm going to have to think about what I'm going to be drawing, how much of it I'm going to draw, and obviously you can decide to a certain extent what to draw and what not to draw. I might just decide to blank this out and just do a little squiggle or something. I don't have to write every single thing. So, it would be no good for me to just leave stuff like this. I've literally just dumped it there randomly. So you're going to want to actually think about taking up this space. So if you just look at my screen space, so just this space that I have, that's kind of like going to be your paper. So this would be landscape way round, in which case I might want to have objects around in this kind of direction. But if you're going to have a portrait image that's obviously longer this way, then you're going to want to have some height to things, and you want to have a little bit of height anyway. So I'm going to take these away, and you want to kind of, for it to be a group of objects, I'd say at least more than 2 objects, maybe even 3. I'm not going to do this today, but you could also slice or chop in half some vegetables. That looks really nice as well, like an orange sliced in half, or the tomato or pepper or anything like that is really interesting to draw. So you might want to think about adding some height with your objects, so moving them around like this. This had just randomly fallen off, but actually it's quite nice to have things slightly separately, and think about the angle that you're going to have to draw things from. So do you want to draw that from that angle? Should I, think about leaning things on top of each other. You don't necessarily want to have the whole thing visible, and you might even change it, take things out, try lots and lots of different things, and also try photographing them and just seeing how does it look. Like if this is looking too long for my piece of paper, for example, do I want to build up more height? That's why I was thinking that tomato there might look nice, and you can kind of use that to lean the pepper on. I've got another pepper, do I want to add another one? What does it look like if that is maybe in the foreground? Think about your foreground and background. So this rolling off slightly separately might look nice, or maybe it should even be a little bit closer. Maybe that's too much. Just play around with things. And even this, how much do I want to get more of the leaves in? Again, think about the fact that you're going to be drawing it. Maybe I'm not seeing enough of the pepper as I want to, or maybe I don't really want to see much. Maybe I just want to draw this little bit at the end. So that's one way of doing that. That would work well maybe as a landscape picture, but if I wanted it to be portrait, then I might really think about bringing that height up even more. That same idea. And to be honest, probably for this piece I wouldn't maybe make that portrait at all. If I was going to make it portrait, I might actually just have those 2 things, maybe have that one rolling off the side. You could maybe see what it looks like. I don't know. You've got to think, do you want something to look natural? Do you want it to look like someone's literally just, you know, kind of throwing their vegetables together, or do you want it to look really laid out very neatly? You could, of course, do a bird's eye view and lay things out very, very neatly and very ordered, which is a totally different way of doing it, and that's also fine. So if I get rid of the vegetables and maybe I work with just these, if you think about these are pretty much cylinder shapes. Purposely pick things at different heights. This is shorter, but rather than just literally having a packet there, it's going to look more interesting if we undo it and have things kind of spilling out. And that equally works really well with like a chocolate bar or something, or a packet of crisps, just open with the food falling out. Really play around with these. You don't want them to look kind of too even or something, you want it to just look natural. And if you struggle with that, just let it fall out and just see what happens. But that's a good idea, just having 3 different heights. And just a bit of a tip, 3s and 5s work best together really. If you're really not sure and you want to play by the rules, have a 3 or a 5. And you can of course use a rule of the third. So I'm just going to move my camera slightly, because it's also going to depend on what angle you draw this at. I don't of course have to draw it from that angle, I can draw it from whatever way round I want to. Maybe that ketchup in the middle is just a bit too it's a bit too central. You kind of want to create something off centre. You want something by rule of the third. So rule of the third is when imagine that you've got a line here and a line here, and just Google to see what I mean. But you would have your maybe your main focus or something key in a picture lining up down the third of the image, rather than just having something in the middle. And maybe this thing here is too central, maybe just moving that off centre slightly. So this is actually coming across the bottom third. And then you've got your top third here, and you've got that third on the right, which is maybe working nicer than it was before. It looks a little bit more balanced and not so like heavy in the middle. But these are just really rough rules. You don't have to stick by them. You can do whatever you want, but these are good guidelines for, you know, what artists use when they're trying to come up with a good composition for their work. Composition being the arrangement of your objects that you're using. Arrangement of, you know, just because I've placed them like this, it doesn't mean when I draw them that I'm going to have them centered in the middle. I kind of want to, but I probably even would make sure that does line up with the third of my page, rather than, you know, it's all well and good having a composition like this, but then if you decide to draw it like that, that's going to be a totally different picture. So you really need to think about the angle that you're drawing it from. So yeah, hopefully that helps for your still life homework. But don't forget to be creative with it, and don't forget to think about the fact that you're going to have to draw it or paint it or whatever media you want to use.